Starport Omega, your last stop for fuel and gas, 2.5 million light years.
Hey,
Now that we've dropped this bomb.
Yeah.
Any
So,
daughter
Bunny,
that asked for a gaming computer at 17 was raised right.
that's right. So, Bunny, what do we have tonight?
So tonight we are talking about Star Trek Discovery, episode 2 and 3.
Awesome.
Yeah.
A little bit
to
of
make
two.
a point. Just to make a point, this is the third and fourth week, but the first two episodes were really they were really one story, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We are also going to be talking about each member's Xmas gift ideas, kind of the geeky gift list. We also have season 2 of The Mandalorian to talk about. Yes, it has started. We are on, we're going to be talking about episode 1 of The Mandalorian. We are not going to be talking about 2, which dropped Friday night. I'm saying Friday night because on one side of the country, it is already Saturday, and on the other side of the country, it's still Friday.
So. Some of us have been working all day and then came straight to do this.
And then we're also going to be having Tom's segment. No. I don't know what that stands for, final.
Risk.
I'm just going to say that my favorite chips are potato chips. So,
and for final segment, I'm going to make him pronounce really difficult German words. Night, Dark Messiah.
Opened my mouth before this.
Night,
hey, Brad, what kind of chip you got in there?
The Dorito at the moment.
And then Tom's tutorial, Pro Audio, mic on your computer.
Yeah, we thought last time wasn't geeky enough, so we're going to get even more geeky this time.
Tom's title was the most wordy. He could have shortened it to PC. I'm kidding.
I mean, of all the wordy things, you're going to give him that?
Yes.
I have 2 acronyms, so... 2 very large acronyms.
well, he could have done PC so that it wouldn't cover the space station.
Yeah.
But some people get bent out of shape over whether a PC is an IBM compatible Wintel system or whether that refers to all manner of desktop individual computers.
Or if it stands for politically correct. You got to add the third notion. Sorry,
we don't need none of that political correctness crap around here.
Please don't do that. Only a third of my state voted, and 4,000 of them voted
PC
West.
stands for personal computer, sir, not politically correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hate that debate. To me, it's like, is it a computer? Yes. Is it your personal computer? Yes. Ta-da!
The trouble is you remember the PC versus Mac ads?
Yes.
It's hard to call a Mac a PC when Apple themselves are the ones who individuated that term. So I just saying, if you want to complain about, it's not a PC applies to every computer that an individual uses. I'm just going to say Apple's the one who made it different. So.
Yeah, which I find funny because they were the ones whose goal was to put a computer on every home in every home.
Okay, so tangents aside, I'm going to interrupt and go on my own tangent. If you guys notice, there is a new extension below. I've revamped the entire Twitch profile in favor of Extra Life. And Extra Life 2020 means a lot to me because last year I was not in a position where I could actually stream during this time. And I would like to, make everyone take a quick view at the extension down in the About area of my profile here, because that allows you to donate to Extra Life, which is going to be donating to the Arkansas Children's Network Miracle Hospital. And the reason why this is so important to me is because it is the same hospital that I spent the majority of my memorable childhood in. So if you guys wouldn't mind, with COVID happening, they only have 2 hospitals in this entire state. Our hospital is doing multiple charitable events to try to raise money so these families don't have to worry about ever paying for treatment at that hospital or that hospital network. So no kid, no family should ever have to worry about their kid getting sick and needing medical treatment. So if you guys, would open your hearts, open your wallets, and take a moment to donate and help better the life of a kid, because one day they might grow up to be just like one of the Starport Omega crew members. It's totally geeky and totally cool. So thank
I'm
you.
sorry, that should have been.
Yeah.
Don't be a Grinch. Save Cindy Lou Who.
So
And
that's
yes, I checked,
my
I
tangent.
checked, and you are allowed to donate $17.01.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yes,
And-
as I just did.
Thank you.
And if you're going to be nerdy about it, be nerdy about it.
Although, if your favorite show was D Space Nine, you are totally allowed to donate $742.05. That's perfectly acceptable.
Any amount goes towards a great cause. This hospital means a lot to me. My brother, it meant so much to him that he actually got a job at this hospital, so he can give back to that community. My brother is a computer programmer technician at the Little Rock Children's Hospital of the Arkansas Network. And he gets to work one-on-one and go in the same hospital that I'm terrified to ever step through the doors again. So, but also, the great thing about these network hospitals, if you're ever a patient there, if your child's ever a patient there, they are a patient for life. So if they have a hard time finding a doctor as an adult, they can always fall back and go to the children's hospital and be seen by a specialist they need to be seen by, which is amazing. And these doctors and these nurses do a lot of good, and they help a lot of people. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them and this amazing network. So yeah. Anyways, back onto our topic.
How do we not have an extra life slide in here?
My entire
in the deck.
Yeah, my entire thing is just overloaded.
Just an extra life slide.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I was going to say, if you want to, you could also donate. If you like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, you could also donate $18.64.
There you go.
Is there any Back to Life or Back to the Future number they can donate?
Out of time, I don't know what you could do with that.
$88.
$88.88.
Before we go on, I've been highlighting different geeky little bits of imagery and video. This week is the LCARS interface. This is a Windows 10 app. This is a Windows 10 app. It's the best app ever. Basically, it is a lookalike of what this artist's interpretation of the Star Trek Next Generation interface, and it's got a bunch of different screens in it. These are all just artistic imagery. There is also, I believe, some media players and stuff like that, so you can actually like play a movie in here or read an ebook in here. And it has the classic Star Trek game. It's got an adaptation of Mayfield's Star Trek text game in here as in this interface, which I just think is cool, and I've actually spent some time playing it just for fun. So again, that's on the the Microsoft Store. I don't remember how much it is, but it's if you're a nerd, then it's worth having to.
What is it called again?
LCARS interface. LCARS.
Thank you, Peanut Gorilla. I'll be sure to check that, and thank you so much for donating. I appreciate every penny.
I remember back in the Windows 9X days when Windows Explorer was a POS and people replaced it with other shells. There was one called Lightstep, and they had an official LCARS interface where the buttons actually did what they're supposed to do. Just like what that app was doing just now. That's just like... Except this was like 20 years ago. Oh, God, I feel old saying that.
An actual useful application. It's got a clock. The atmosphere gives you the actual weather at your location.
Well, that's... Can someone just write an LCARS like iOS or Android app?
Well,
That
anyways,
would make it appropriate.
Caution, spoilers ahead. Let's get on to our first topic of the night, since we're already running an hour behind schedule.
Bunny's schedule is really tight.
It's not really tight.
Hey, Bunny, are there spoilers?
There are spoilers.
So if I have not yet watched any of these episodes, should I watch this next segment?
If you plan on watching it and you care about spoilers, the answer to that is you should not watch.
Okay, well, I guess that's the end of my involvement for this podcast. Good night.
See you later, Brad.
I'm kidding. I don't mind.
So without going through the extra long, super long recap we did last time, we've had two episodes of Discovery since the last time we got together. The first episode, Discovery, the third week, Discovery reached Earth and found out that things were not quite what they expected. The Federation Earth was no longer part of the Federation, and they had raiders coming to visit. Next episode, we find out that someone who has joined the crew is now not a joined Trill. What do you call it? I guess a joined human. They have a Trill symbiote and a human host, so they go to the Trill homeworld to take care of business. So rather than just talk about the entire thing, I was hoping we could just be a little more brief and talk about what our favorite moments were. Does anyone want to go first? Brad, you got picked.
I haven't seen it. How am I going first?
Brad's favorite moment was the closing credits.
No, my favorite moment was your subscription has lapsed.
Oh no!
Crap.
How about Jim?
I think my favorite moment was probably at the end where they were breaking through her memories. As to when they were trying to fix her memories and so she could remember the other, I guess it would be the other Trill's memories she's remembering, right? Not the symbiotes.
The host, they call it the symbiote. The symbiote carries the memories of all the hosts
all the hosts from before.
her.
But do the Trills carry the memories of the Trills as well?
No.
I don't know that the symbiote has its own personality. I've always thought that the symbiote just
they have knowledge of their
existence. They have the big tank and they can talk to each other apparently, but
yeah, that's the only way they can share the memories. Is the tank.
Well, I like the part where they were breaking through the memories. I was actually surprised.
Seriously, you didn't crop the picture?
You know what? I just put it.
Okay. Okay.
I gotta say that
so glad that my medication bottle was facing the opposite direction.
Why doesn't that Star Trek Adventures?
That sequence, Jim, I agree with you. That is some of the best Trek I have ever seen.
Yeah, and
the impact of that, and we all knew what was happening. The instant that we found out that that her boyfriend was a Trill, we all knew it was going to happen because there's no other way to get where we were. But still, it broke my heart watching it.
It did. I am not ashamed to admit there may have actually been tears.
At the end of it, my daughter, I turned to my daughter and I'm like, I'm not too much of a man to admit I might have cried once during that episode, and she goes, I cried 3 times.
Are we talking tears of joy at this level of Trek? Or
it was really
emotionally.
It was really that good. It was really that well done, that well written, that well played. It was just really, really good. You completely lost yourself in it. You were there. It was great.
The cinematography it borrowed some elements from Ghost in the Shell, I thought. Some of the camera angles and stuff, but the cinematography was excellent. The acting was top notch. Everything, the writing, the directing, this episode really just nailed it.
Well, not just this episode. I have to say, I don't know what has changed, but this season overall has just been outstanding. I mean, it really has been. I really liked the second season. I didn't like the first season until I watched it the second time, and I could appreciate what they were trying to do, but I didn't really care for it. I really liked the second season. It was good, but this is just blowing everything away. It is just amazing.
You think this might have anything to do with the fact that CBS is basically doubled and tripled down on Star Trek because they're losing money, and this is their biggest property right now. And
Hey,
I had
Judd.
heard two things. I had heard that one, that they were trying to keep this up so they could sell it, but I had also heard that it's like, this is our shot. We're taking it. If we can't make this go, then CBS is dead. Because I know that Redstone's daughter is propping up the studio with her own money. They were having trouble with their stock, and they had to sign an agreement that their stock wouldn't go below a certain value, or the SEC would jump in. And she has been propping up the stock by buying it with her own cash, and she's made it quite clear. My resources are not inexhaustible. Something's got to change here. Something has to win. So I've heard two things. I've heard they're trying to prop it up to sell it, and that's what the meeting with NBC was. NBC was going to buy it, but CBS wanted too much money. And I've also heard that they're just trying to really make it a good show. And if that's what they're trying, boy, are they succeeding. Because it's wonderful this season.
So, to get back on track, Judd, what did you think of this episode of these two episodes that we're talking about here?
Well, we're talking about the first one first, and then we'll hit the...
Well, you're talking about the second
Jim
one.
was talking about Return to the Homeworld, yeah.
And the trill and everything is the second one that we're talking about, because where the Raiders...
Trill is the fourth one.
Well, the two we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, it's a decent episode. Yeah, I know. I should be expounding on it, but honestly, I
really didn't care that much for it.
I thought her boyfriend was actually a girl. Sorry.
You know what? I did too. I'm in on it. I thought it was a girl as well.
You're actually both not wrong. Both of those actors are LGBTQ something. So the actor that plays...
Oh, really?
Yes, the actor that plays Adira is... I cannot remember the person's name right now. Uses they them pronouns and is not claims to be non-binary.
Okay.
And Star Trek made a big deal about this is the first non-binary character on Star Trek. I guess we're going to forget about the episode with Riker and the non-binary rate, the whole non-binary.
Yeah, but that wasn't. Yeah, but she was a character in an episode, not a regular.
Yeah. This is the first regular that's non-binary in the series in Star Trek. And then Gray. I wish I had a picture of Gray in here. Gray is I want to say Gray is a female to male transsexual.
The actor.
So we don't know how far along that actor is in their transition, but so you guys are not entirely wrong. Can certainly be forgiven for thinking that that's a female, because biologically that person, I believe, is.
The person has feminine features.
Yes.
I really young when they said it was a guy. I went, oh, must be a really young person.
Yeah, forgive me for not having that information at the tip of my fingers. But they did. Star Trek did make a big deal about that. I believe the character's name is Gray. Not Shades of Gray. Gray Tao is the character's name.
There is a
played
couple
by
of
Ian Alexander. And okay, the big deal about Ian Alexander is the first transsexual Asian American something in to actually make it in cinema in the US. It's worth checking out both of these actors and looking at their stories, because neither one of them is a traditional. And I love seeing that Star Trek is including some non-traditional actors as well as non-traditional characters.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, this is supposed to be the utopia of equality, so adding that in kind of seems appropriate to fit the narrative and the entire overall theme. That
it was something that Roddenberry wanted to do all the way back in the Next Generation, but the suits wouldn't let him.
Now, what's going to be interesting is, Star Trek.com said that the character was non-binary, we haven't seen any evidence of that yet. I mean, constantly Adira was referred to as a she. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a coming out of sorts, and there's some sort of a bond with Stamets and Colbert, according to the teasers we got. So we'll see what happens during the course of the series with those characters. And of course, we know that Gray is now a Force ghost for lack of a better term. Which, sorry, Brad, I didn't mean to spoil that for you. Gray is, of course, the previous host for Tao, which makes this really interesting. We're going to have a relationship between two people, one of whom is no longer corporeal. So we'll see how that goes during the course, and that I think is going to be a fascinating journey watching those two interact when only one of them can actually.
If all that, if you join with a symbiote and when you die, you die, and your memories are what are left. How did we have a conversation at the end?
Well, do you remember
remembering the other person? They were actually having a conversation.
The way I understand it is, do you remember the episode of Deep Space Nine where Jadzia went through like this remembering ceremony, and she actually had it like a chat with all of her previous hosts?
Vaguely, I wasn't really a big DS9
fan. So I guess the best way to put it is, this happened in this actually is prefaced by Frank Herbert. Actually, is the first one to actually deal with this. In Dune, Atreides' son becomes the emperor, and he remembers all of the previous people along his line, all of the Bene Gesserit.
Right.
And at some point, those memories start taking on a life of their own, and he starts suffering from multiple personality disorder or something like that. I can't remember all the details.
That was his sister.
So, was it his sister? That's right. It was his sister.
His sister. That's one of the reasons why she was considered a heretic.
Yeah. So you can kind of do the same thing as a host. You can the memories are there, and that the memories are what it is, or what gets held inside the symbiote. The symbiote is still a living creature. It's still a living being. So it takes on the characteristics of each host as it advances through each life.
So she was actually talking to the Trill, but with the other one's memories and experiences.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, the symbiote becomes. I mean, you become one. You literally become one with the symbiote. So
I get that. So she could actually
have a conversation with any of her previous hosts.
She could have a conversation with the previous host, with somebody that has all their feelings, all their experiences, and all their knowledge.
And I think that Jadzia Dax had to go through a ceremony to do it, but apparently Adira, either being Adira or maybe being human, or maybe just as a result of the traumatic events that led to her becoming host to Tao, that gave her an extra little bit of ability to talk to Gray that she wouldn't have had otherwise. And quite frankly, she could just be insane and hallucinating. And I don't care. I don't care. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought that was a great moment. But I'm going to say, since we haven't talked about the previous episode at all, Welcome to Earth, or whatever the name of it was. Welcome to Earth. Now go home. I loved Georgiou's, how she stepped in near the end of that episode, knocked the Raider guy down and ripped his helmet off. And we're all thinking this is going to turn out to be some alien that can't breathe human air, and that's why he's wearing this respirator all the time. And it just turns out it's some guy that wants to be Darth Vader and just won't take his mask off because he think it makes him look intimidating.
No,
I know. That whole I love that, and you have said this in the past, Jim, that the big ability of the defining characteristic of humans in the Star Trek universe is that they are peacemakers. And I love that in the Welcome to Earth episode, that Discovery is literally that they acted as peacemakers, and they actually brought these two tribes of humans back together again.
I think that's partially why this season is working so well with Star Trek fans. Because remember, in the first one, the Federation was being torn apart by forces from within, and in the second one, we kind of fought back. And now we got the third one where we're weak. It's like these people from the past are coming forward to show you how to be the Federation again. So it's like everything that you and I grew up believing because we watched way too much Star Trek, we're seeing in these episodes. This is how you solve this kind of problem. We go, yes, I know. This is how you solve this problem. Yes, I know.
We do have a picture of Gray here. So this is Gray and Adira interacting, even though Gray is now a figment. But I think honestly, now that I've said all that, I think I loved the ending of this episode with the Buster Keaton holograms in the shuttle bay.
Yep.
Mostly not for its own sake, but for what it implies. Have all of you guys seen the short trek with Calypso?
Haven't seen any of the short treks.
Okay, so the short version is the actor that plays Book, he's not the same character, but the actor that plays Book shows up on the Discovery. The Discovery's been floating around in space for 1,000 years on its own, and we assume that it's been abandoned for some reason.
Okay. Yeah.
And the computer is alive. She is every bit as alive as you and me, right? And she and this guy, form a friendship. And and she watches these old movies. So I loved that this kind of reminded me of that. And the fact that we had these little moments with the computer starting to wake up and give us those glimpses of the Calypso version of herself. And I loved that. I loved this because it just totally reminded me of that short trek, which I really liked. And that is the last Discovery slide I have. There's another star something. Go ahead.
Well,
oh yeah, we didn't get to yours.
Like you've kind of had the floor, so there's a lot to these 2 episodes. We have, who can we trust, and someone having to relearn something she's known for so long that she thought was the only part of herself, and having to adapt to live. And that's the first episode that we're talking about, where they're they're approached by raiders and Book, and they have to save the day. And one of the sentimental things that I really enjoyed about that episode is at the end of it, where they are at the academy that still exists on Earth, where the Federation had the foresight to see that if they remained on Earth, that the Earth would be in danger, and they couldn't do that. But the building remained. The respect for the Federation kind of remained, but there was no trust left, because the Earth was basically abandoned to a degree. They became self-sufficient, but they were so defensive that it was heartbreaking. And we get to this next episode, and it is everyone in such denial of what has happened. They're in such denial of their own thoughts, their own feelings, and their own fears. And I've connected a lot with that episode in the start of it, and everyone basically having to have a breakdown and get pissed off in order to realize that they're not alone in it, and that they need each other. And it's okay to need help. It's okay to hurt. And it's okay to not know what's going to happen. There was a lot of emotional connectivity, because if we put it in today's timelines and we look how much we've gone through since the Next Generation till now, we've had to come to accept a lot of things that have happened, and we've had to come to accept how much we've grown and how much we haven't, and how much we have left to grow. And we can't grow or begin to grow until we break down those walls. We can't get past the barrier because we don't have the tools. And the only way we can have these tools is if we trust and believe in each other. And Good.
I was just saying, there's that saying that the beginning of wisdom is admitting your own ignorance. And I feel like here, like, the beginning of the healing is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah. And it's a lot with grieving too. A lot of people are going through grieving, even if it's in minute amount or if it's in large amounts. I constantly go through medical stuff. Being handed news that isn't in my favor, I feel it's hard to deal with. And if I don't deal with it the right way, I get angry. I get dismissive. I get problematic, you know? But after that, I just, I come to accept it, and I let my friends back in. But if I didn't put up that barrier in the first place and fear so much of what others would think about the fact that I have the medical conditions and I have these problems and that I'm going to be different, or things might change, and just trust my friends, then it would be a little easier for me. Much like the pilot, when she has to not be stubborn and talk to someone.
You brought up Detmer and her apparent PTSD. Does anybody think that there's going to be another? Does anybody think there's going to be something deeper to that, or that's going to pay off in terms of future events in the season?
I don't know.
Jed?
I'm hoping we haven't seen the end of it, because it was
intense.
So, not just intense, but it was highlighted several times in the previous episode.
Oh yeah,
it definitely did point it out quite a few times.
And and I hate to think that something as significant of that is just going to get swept under the rug.
Well, they didn't really sweep it under the rug. In the 4th episode, they had the scene where she went and talked to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I need to talk to somebody.
We're hoping that's not the end. That's what Tom's saying.
They showed her working through therapy and things like that. That would be cool. Or whatever it is they do then in the 24th century.
Yeah. Making it to where people don't have to be ashamed of, I don't know how to deal with this, but someone else might. If I open up to someone, is that okay? And showing that, yes, that's okay. That's healthy. Would be nice.
And who here is really hoping that Discovery gets a tech upgrade? Because when those cannons knocked out her shields in one hit, I find myself thinking there's no way she can survive in that universe.
She is a research vessel.
Well, not only that, she can jump out of the way anytime she needs to, as long as Stamets is down there in the engine room where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the only person who can physically do the job.
Well, I have a feeling from what happened in episode 4 that's not going to be the case for very much longer.
Hopefully,
I'm still going to run off the hunch that this is how Enterprise J can travel in time, and we're going to get rid of the mushroom drive. I think is that they're going to keep it in the future, the magic mushroom drive, and they're going to go back to the past with warp drive.
Well,
because it blows too many stories. It's like, well, where did this engine go? I mean, there is no organization ever anywhere that would give up that kind of a tactical advantage, ever.
It's faster than, what was it, the quantum tunnel drive?
Quantum slipstream drive,
yeah. That one could go from one quadrant of the Milky Way to the other in what, days? Was it?
Yeah,
it was like a 2-week trip.
What if it turns out that there's literally no other way aside from the DNA that's in Stamets, and they come up with it can't be extracted. We've tried and we can't extract it, and we can't replicate DNA that's the tardigrade DNA that's been injected in him.
Well, then Stamets would be stuck, but that wouldn't explain how they had more than one time ship in the future.
True. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean,
what if the drive just gets stolen, and that's how the whole temporal war begins?
I mean, there have been so many ways they've traveled in time. I mean, we had the Guardian, we had slingshotting around a black hole, slingshotting around Earth's sun. We had chronoton particles. There was the Gateway on that library planet. Okay, and I'm just going to say, who wouldn't want to go visit an entire planet that's basically a huge library? I mean...
Stay tuned for more from Starport Omega. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Starport Omega. If you like this episode, stay tuned for more.